Okay, welcome everyone. Today is the Content Creators webinar. I will get kicked off in about 5 minutes. I'm just watching the various responses to that poll come in. It looks like mostly today we have people creating courses via video. A few half video, half text. That's good. We have a whole chunk today on media creation and that workflow, so that'll be good to cover. All right, whilst we're waiting for everyone else to jump in, if you want to open the chat panel, it's probably down the bottom of your Zoom screen. Let me know where you're from. So I'm from Brisbane, Australia, dialing in from there today, I guess. What other countries do we have? Bangladesh, welcome. Canada, Colorado, USA, welcome. Arizona, Germany, San Diego by way of Slovenia, welcome. Mexico, Montana, UK. Must be late at night in the UK right now. Around 7-ish. Okay, Canada, Sydney, hey, welcome. Arizona, Brazil, Budapest, Tenerife. 3 a.m. in Mexico. All right, sorry, not Mexico. 3 a.m. in Bangladesh. Well, thank you for joining us. Indonesia, nice. Awesome. All right. Yeah, so today we're going to be going over from the basics, ClickUp as some basic concepts, going through the workflows for how to brainstorm and then kind of write out the content for a course. I am mainly aiming at online courses, so with the idea that you would publish this somewhere online. I would be interested if anyone is not doing that. If you are a teacher or someone else who is not going to be publishing your course online or in that format, I'd love to know what you're doing, where it's going to be kind of put out into the world. Okay, BA, fair enough. Yeah, this webinar should still be pretty helpful for that. Helping out a course creator. Awesome. We'll get started in just 2 minutes. If you have just jumped on, welcome. Today we're doing our course creators webinar, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. If you haven't already, make sure you answer the polls. Well, it's just one question actually. It's about what format your course will be in. That helps me understand what people are going to be kind of looking for in terms of feature set. And also, if you haven't already, chuck in where you're from in the chat. Okay. Awesome. Welcome to Seattle, Florida, Canada, Panama. Not sure if I've had someone from Panama before. Welcome. UK, Germany, California, South Africa, and Berkeley. Egypt. Welcome from Egypt. All right, we'll get kicked off in just 1 minute. Okay, so it's looking like people are predominantly creating courses via video with some text. And just a tiny couple, 3 people who are doing audio or in person. Cool. Okay, so creating manuals and courses for clients. Cool. And welcome from Hungary. All right, we're on the hour now, so we'll get kicked off. So if you've just joined us, welcome. This is the Course Creators webinar. We'll start to get into it now. If you haven't already, make sure you do answer the poll just about the format that your course will be in, and we'll jump into it. All right. see if we can move through our slide here. So welcome all. This is your Zoom screen. Be aware that down the bottom, you should have chat and QA options. We do have a whole bunch of really awesome ClickUp customer support people on the line. They'll be answering questions throughout the call. So if you do have a question, please do put it in the Q&A section. It's a little bit more structured and a bit easier for us to monitor and answer those questions. In chat will generally just be between people, so we won't be answering questions there. Cool. For the recording, this webinar will be recorded. It'll be emailed to you automatically after the webinar is finished, and it'll also be available at clickup.com/webinar. Okay, so who am I? My name is Justin. I am a trainer and product manager. Oh, sorry, I was previously a trainer and product manager, as well as a senior product expert at ClickUp. I'm now a independent consultant and trainer. I help people out set up ClickUp well and make sure that their teams are trained and everything's working well. All right, so I'll just stop my video here so you can see this full screen. So here's the agenda for today. So we're going to go over some ClickUp basics, brainstorming course plans, kind of that very early stages of course creation, and how that works in ClickUp. Writing out the course content, there's a few different options there, so we'll go over those. The media creation workflow, it looks like most people are going to be doing things with at least some video, or audio is much the same process. And then course review and feedback, kind of getting the understanding of how things are going and improving a course over time. And then the advertising workflow basics. My assumption is that most people on the call will be at some point advertising their course out to prospective students. And so just how you'd structure that in ClickUp as well. At the end, hopefully we'll have some time left for questions. So I'm aiming for about 40 minutes on the content and hopefully about 20 minutes left for the questions. Okay, so if you've just jumped on, welcome. See, there's a few people here from, we've got Los Angeles, New Zealand, Melbourne, Australia, Missouri, Venezuela. Awesome. Good to have you all here. All right. So this is kind of the structure we're going to end up with today. I do like to keep things very simple. So if you're familiar with ClickUp already, you'll notice that there are no folders here. In general, I try and use as little structure as possible to fit what I need to fit, just so that things aren't overly complicated. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have one workspace, obviously. I'm going to create a single space, and then within that, I'm going to have 3 lists. So one for course content, one for media creation, and one for advertising. Now, if you did have multiple courses, you'd probably have multiple lists. But for now, we're going to go with this, and you kind of expand it out only as you need to. So as things grow or you end up with multiple courses, that sort of thing, you might want to create extra lists. Okay, so let's jump into ClickUp. Here we go. All right. Okay, so first one I want to go over is some ClickUp basics. So in this left-hand panel, this is kind of where all your navigation is. You can collapse it or uncollapse it. Up the top here, we've got some quick shortcuts to home and notifications. Home's just kind of a place that gathers your work. Notifications are anything that people have sent to you in terms of comments and things that are coming up. So good to be aware of, but for today, we'll mostly spend our time in spaces. So spaces is where all of our actual task to do items live, and we can break them out into different chunks. So the top chunk is a space. Within that, we have folders, and within those, we have lists. And lists is where our actual tasks live. So as I said before, we're going to kind of keep this pretty minimal today. Within our task, we can then break it down into subtasks. And if we have a look at a task, we can see it's got lots of different bits of information here. So it lives in a location in a particular list. We can mark it as complete or have a set of statuses. We can assign it to someone, and we can add due dates. So those are kind of the real basics. Obviously, it also has a name, and we can also type in a description here for what the task is. And there's lots of things that can be added here. You can also paste images in here and access some other commands as well. For example, putting in a table. That's all accessible with this little button here, the slash commands, or you can type slash. Okay, we have custom fields. Custom fields allow us to add extra information to this task that there isn't a field for by default. So here I've just added a drop-down with 3 options. We can choose which option each task is. Then we've got our subtasks. We also have checklists. And these are just a kind of a list of things to remember or a list of steps to go through and kind of check off as you do them. We can attach files. And then over here, we have a whole section for comments. And this can be used to take notes for things that decisions you made or things to remember about this task, or you can use it to communicate with other people. So if you need to ask a question or request review, ask for help, anything like that. Okay, so in general, I'm going to be using these features to kind of structure our whole workflow. So we're going to create things into tasks and perhaps subtasks in a couple of different lists. And that's going to be the default structure of our data. Okay, what we can then do is we then have different views. So at the top here, I've got a list view that just kind of lists out our tasks. We've also got a board view. If this does work well for your, your brain, how your brain works, you can then drag things between the different columns instead. So here we have the columns as these statuses. So you're kind of dragging it through the workflow. There are also a bunch of ways to customize the views. So you can see this bar at the top here. So we can see we can filter, sort, group, change how subtasks are displayed, and show some extra options. So those are all really useful. I'm not going to go into them too much today. We won't need them too much for this webinar, but really good to know about, particularly creating multiple views of the same type. So I could do another list view here, and I could customize this one different from the first one. Maybe I filter for only, a certain thing, where the status is closed, for example. Okay, we'll leave that alone for now. Okay, so the first topic for course creation specifically that I want to dive into is brainstorming. So let's perhaps go to our course content list here. I want to do a brainstorm, and I'm going to use, there's 2 options here, either mind maps or docs. So we'll look at mind maps first. So I'm going to create a new view up the top and use a mind map view. Now there's 2 options with mind map view. One of them is to represent tasks. So here you can see that each node is, this node here is a folder, these nodes are tasks. You can then create more nodes for subtasks. So it's a display of what already exists, and you can kind of create new tasks in that structure as well. Whereas this one here is just totally free flow. It doesn't relate to tasks at all. And I'm actually going to use this because I don't want to have to enforce a structure on my thoughts just yet. I want to kind of just brainstorm freely. So root node. So I actually do course creation as well. I create courses about ClickUp. So I'll name my root node ClickUp. Now in my course for teaching people how to use ClickUp, I think I might have 3 big parts. So I have maybe like a structure, teaching people about the structure of ClickUp, maybe workflows, and perhaps reporting. So I'll add those 3 as nodes. Now you can drag these, move them around, make them look a little bit neater. You can also change the color. So let's say we want to color code each one of these. We can do that. And then from there, we can add a new node, and we'll say these are the actual tasks. Or sorry, no, we haven't gotten there yet. So these are, what does structure entail? So structure, I'm going to say hierarchy, and also tasks. So the structure of both of those. Okay, workflows, what does workflows mean? So I might say, views, statuses, and moving tasks. Often you can move tasks between locations, that's part of your workflow, and collaboration. We talked briefly about the task comments there. Okay, now I'm going to click this relayout button, which is going to kind of organize things a little bit more nicely for me. And then same thing, reporting. So let's say that I'm going to say dashboards and views for reporting. Okay, so you might spend a bit of time brainstorming out your course, all the different parts of it. You might go to many more levels than this, but for now I'm just going to stop it here. This is a really basic brainstorm of what my course might entail. Now I want to turn this into tasks, so I kind of have a permanent structure for this. So I'm going to go through my brainstorm, my mind map here, and decide which things are going to end up as actual course content sections or blocks. So I'm not going to do a section on structure. It's kind of too broad. So I'll pick these lower level ones. So each one of these, I'm going to go create task in course content. It's already got the name. Right now, I'm not going to assign or give it due date. I just want the task to have that name. So I'll go create. And you can see now it's now a task. If we click this button, it'll expand that actual task. So it's now linked to that task. Do the same thing with tasks, views, statuses, moving tasks, collaboration. And in your case, you might have multiple levels here. You might be jumping up and down between levels as to what you actually create as tasks. In my case, this was a bit canned, so it's all kind of nicely at the same level. But you might find that you are creating tasks from different node levels. Okay, so now if I jump back into my list, I can see I have a nice little list of tasks there, and these will be my course sections. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. This is kind of like the task, and I guess mind map way of doing it. The other way is to go via docs. So in docs, I can go add new, and this is not, it might suit some people because it does link well to tasks in ClickUp, but this is pretty standard. Like you might have used Google Docs for this in the past, where you come into doc view and we'll say, ClickUp course, and we start just typing out ideas and content. The really nice thing about ClickUp Docs is we can use pages. So we can kind of add sub pages here and have these be each of our main categories. So instead of having to purely do it all in one page, we can start to actually, genuinely break things up to help with understanding and kind of logical structuring of the course. So last one here, we'll do reporting. And then we can create subpages within each of those for the actual next level. And now that might be valuable, or that might be kind of too broken up. It depends how much content's going to be in this section. If this is going to be a page or two of content, that's probably worth having its own page. If it's only going to be a paragraph, then I'd probably just kind of put all those paragraphs together under structure. So here we could just have hierarchy, oops, and then start typing out things for that. And we can select that one and make it into a heading as well. Cool. The nice thing about headings, so if we do end up with a whole bunch of content in our document here, so we have tasks as our second heading, we can actually create a table of contents. So if we go / and we have table of contents, it'll come up here and it'll start to automatically generate a table based on our headings. So you can end up with a really well-structured document if this is your preferred way of doing it, rather than kind of going the mind map task way. If you're probably going to be using bullet points at some point, do be aware that they're available. Yep. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of the two options for brainstorming. Next, what I'd get into is kind of once we finish brainstorming, we know what our course is about. We need to get into actually writing out the content for our course. And this could be like actual writing that will be delivered to the customers or the students, but it could also be the script for videos or audio if we're doing it that way. So in our kind of task type way of doing it, I would go into each task and most likely we'd be writing it out in the description. So kind of this box can expand as big as you need it. It just keeps going, and it can include all the same things you put in a doc. So you can have all your formatting and various other attachments, images that you need to put in. They'll all fit in there fine. So you can write it out there. The other thing you can do is that you can attach a doc which is a ClickUp doc. So you can kind of create a doc just for this lesson. If that works for you, that's fine. I think it's a little bit kind of having things in two places. So it's like a doc and a task at the same time. I quite like just having it in the description, so it's all in one place, nice and easy to get to. Cool. So you're running out your content or your script here. Obviously, if you are using the kind of doc way of going about things, you would simply put your content in on the correct page in that doc, whether it be, again, written content or video script, writing it out there. Cool. And do remember, down the bottom of Zoom, there is the Q&A section. If you do want to ask any questions about this, we do have staff answering those questions. Okay. We're zooming through today, but I think those are pretty straightforward. I'll take questions at the end if any of that was unclear. What I'll jump into now is the media workflow section. So here I've got a list for media creation, and the idea here is that now that I've kind of figured out what my course is, what all the sections are, probably a lot of those sections are going to require video. They might only be video, or they might just have video to supplement the text. So I've got my scripts written out here in my tasks, and now I want to create videos from those. So what you could do is if you're doing a purely video course, I probably wouldn't separate these two. So what I'd do is, now that I've finished drafting it, I'll start moving it through a set of statuses. So if we go into this list and go edit list statuses, your statuses are probably going to be something like to do, and then like drafted, and then start going into your recording, your video statuses. So recorded and then edited. You'll note that I don't have drafting, recording, editing, because it's kind of like an intermediate state. I do like to use like set points in time. So there's one point in time in which it becomes drafted. There's one point in time in which it becomes recorded. Not necessary, but it's a nice way of keeping things clear that I quite like. So if you're doing video only, yeah, probably once you finish drafting it, you just go straight into recording. Yeah, if you're kind of doing videos as supplemental, that's when I'd kind of separate this. And so you can put in a task per video needed. And it could be you need multiple videos per section, or only videos one every like third section or something. So it might not directly map to tasks. But what we do is we create a task for what we need. So we've got one here for the hierarchy demonstration for that hierarchy section. And what I'd most likely do here is come into the task, and you can do this, yeah, and then go into the dependencies. You can also get to dependencies just by right-clicking on it. And I don't want to actually kind of create these waiting on block and dependencies. You can, but for now, I'm just going to link it. And linking it is just kind of like an arbitrary link. It just lets you know that these two tasks are in some way related to each other. So now I have a link down here to that other hierarchy task, and vice versa. Okay, so in my media creation workflow list, what I've got is a set of statuses. So it starts out as to do, and then again, drafted, script ready, recorded, edited, and then uploaded. Now, you'll have a specific process, so change these statuses and make ones that suit you, but this is a common set of statuses, I guess. Okay. Awesome. Now, there's also a whole extra section here, which may or may not be relevant to you. So what I have, and I think what is quite common, is you might have someone else helping you with editing, video editing. It might be someone in your team. It might be an external kind of contractor or freelancer. So what I've done is I've actually shared that person into this location. So you can see here, it's got my team, and it's also got Sam, my video editor. So the way of doing that, now I want Sam to see all of these tasks, not just one. So I've shared this whole list with him. So on the list here, I've gone to the 3 dots, gone to sharing and permissions, and I've added a new person down here. And I did that by typing in his email. Oops. Down the bottom here, going next, choosing what access level I want him to have, and inviting him as a guest. Okay. So now that Sam has visibility on this list only, he won't see anything else in my workspace, but he can see this list and he has, I think I gave him edit permissions. Let's just check that. Actually, no, he's got full permissions. We can see it there. I might actually change that to edit permissions because he doesn't need to create tasks. That's mainly what the full permissions gives you. He just needs to be able to change the status, edit the details, that sort of thing. I could also give him comment only permissions. So he'll just kind of make comments. And then if I've assigned it to him, he'd also be able to change the status. So that might be okay. But for now, I'm going to give him a little bit more permissions and just say edit permissions. Okay. Cool. If I want to, I can hide some things from Sam, things like custom fields or time tracking, that sort of thing. I'm not going to do that right now, but it's just good to be aware that that's possible. So once I've got a new task and I get it to the recorded status. So it's up to me to write the script and record it. Once it's recorded, I assign it to him and I'll give it a due date. I want this done by next week, end of next week. He then has his own view. So here we can see all tasks, but some of them aren't really relevant. So his view, editing, only shows tasks that are in the recorded status. So these are only the things that he's going to care about. In the attachments, I've attached all the kind of bits and pieces that he needs, so all the raw videos that he'll kind of work on and process. Once he's finished processing everything, he'll attach the final files, but I'm actually not going to get him to attach them here. I've got a finals attachment custom file custom field, and he'll attach the final files there. Just to kind of keep them separate, and it also looks really nice in my view. I can see the final files here. Okay, if he has problems, he'll let me know in the comments. He'll add a comment and mention me in. You can see here I've given him some instructions of things that I wanted changed. So you can kind of go back and forth as needed on this particular video. And that's like a whole conversation that's related to just this video. For a different video, there's a different task and therefore a different conversation area. So it keeps things really nicely separate and you know what is the context of each comment, which is really helpful. Okay. Now, once we're done, we've got a final file attached here. What we can do is we can just attach this whole task, maybe it's more accurate to say to add a link to this task in our actual course layout. So it might be here, we've got all of our text description or text thing, and we can go at twice to mention a task, and we can mention the task's media task. So that might work, but particularly if you're doing a video only type course, then you don't really need to do that every time. You may just wish to, I mean, you've probably only used one list anyway, but you may just wish to copy that final file into your course content, whether that be on a task or in docs. You can just kind of paste it as a link, which will embed it. So if we go /embed, you can do that, or there's like direct ones for YouTube, etc. Okay, so that is the media workflow. I also want to have a look at reviews and feedback. So as you're seeing people go through your course, it might be you're delivering it live, it might be that they're doing it online, and you're kind of just getting a feel for how they're going. Probably what's going to happen is you're going to come up with things you want to change or adjust. So what I'd typically do is I'll come into a task, and what I like to do is to leave myself comments. You could create a checklist with all the changes you want to make, or even use subtasks, but I prefer to use comments. So what I'll do is I'll come in here and say, okay, part 2 needs more clarity. And what I can do is I can assign that to myself. And that's now a to-do item for me to come back to and kind of action. Now you could do like one comment for each thing, but you can also put multiple. I really like the, if you go checklist, it gives you these like dot points that can then later on be kind of ticked off. So you can do a whole list of those. Do note that if you hit enter, it'll submit the task. So in order to get to a new line, you have to go shift enter. Cool. And then later on, I can come through and check these off as I complete them and then resolve that comment. So you can kind of have this like long list of adjustments, things you'd like to do. And then whenever you want to come through and do all your changes, you can see them there and then tick them off as you update them. Now, that's really good if you're kind of generating your own review of a course or like a section, or even if a team member is generating a review of a section. But if the actual students are doing it, what I'd really suggest is you might have another list for feedback. Then on that list, what you can do is create a form, and that allows people outside of ClickUp to fill in the form, which will then become a task. So we can say task name, or add that field, and maybe a description. So we can say here, I don't know if you need to collect their name, but if you want to, you can, and then your feedback. Okay, and that's going to look like a very simple form that you can give them the link to, or maybe even embed it somewhere in your website or in your course. Once they fill in that form, it will become a task in here. You can action it and then mark it off. A really advanced aside, and I won't go through this because it is quite advanced, but if anyone enjoys setting up automations, there's a really neat opportunity here with perhaps a external form. So something like Google Forms, where you have a drop-down field for each of the sections, which the students can select. And then you can use something like Integromat or Automate.io to then pull that data from their kind of feedback, look up the correct task ID in like a spreadsheet, and then paste their feedback on the correct task as a comment. So you can kind of have all the comments from your students on this particular section. It does require some external automation, so I won't go through it today, but it's a fun extra possibility for those who like that sort of thing. Okay, next we're going to look at the advertising workflow basics. So we're not going to go into depth here because this is not an advertising webinar, but just really briefly, for a lot of you, you'll be selling or advertising your course, and so it's good to have a place to organize that. So what I'd suggest is that we advertise how we're going to get the word out. Maybe we're going to put this course on Udemy. Maybe we're going to do a Facebook ads campaign, and maybe we're going to like share details in a relevant form. So whatever you're going to do, kind of just listing all of that out, gain a bit of a brainstorm. And you could use a mind map if you want to really think this through. But for me, tasks is fine just for now. And then each one of these is going to have steps. So we'll use subtasks to go through those steps. So we might need to submit course and then get approval, that sort of thing. Again, Facebook ads will have its own details, share and forms will have its own steps. And then we'll do them. So it's pretty much just an ad hoc task list that you then go through and do. What you can do though, as an advanced bit, that is not necessary. This might be good enough for you. But what you can do is add a custom field for the number of estimated views and estimated conversion rate. So I've just used a number custom field there and created a new one for each of these. So let's say on Udemy, we kind of expect, look, I think probably they have a pretty wide audience, maybe 2,000 people are going to see this course, but a pretty low conversion rate. I think only like let's say 1 in 20. So 5%, 0.05 will convert. Facebook, okay, we're going to put that out to about 1,000 people, and maybe like 1 in 10 will convert. Forum is a bit smaller, it's only 500 people going to see it, but I think maybe 1 in 5 might convert and actually do the course. And then what we can do is we can use a formula field to calculate those two together. So let's just say number of students. So what we'll do is we'll multiply these. So estimated views multiplied by estimated conversion rate. They all exactly equal 100? Oh yeah, it's just a weirdness in the numbers I use. Okay, so what we'll do there is we can also, so we can have a look at these numbers and say, okay, we're probably expecting to have 300 students total. Is that enough, or do we need to add more, advertising tasks? Do we need to do something different? So it's just a good way of kind of checking in advance if you think you're going to have a good enough outreach. And then as you kind of launch the course, you can adjust these numbers to match what's actually happening and seeing if kind of better predicting how things are going to go in the future and seeing if you need to change what you're doing. Okay, so that's all I'm going to go over for advertising for today. I did want to jump into one last thing and then we'll head to questions. So if we go into a task here, what I've got in here is a picture. And this is just a really beautiful picture I found online. It's not particularly related to this course, but I assume this would be some sort of like image to show something in the course in terms of demonstrating what you're teaching. If we have a look at this picture, there's a kind of a hidden feature in here which can be really nice. And it's up here with the add comments. So in add comments, we can actually click on this image. We say, okay, this bit here, and you can leave a comment about it. Can we clarify this, please? And then we can suggest who we'd like to look at this and deal with it. And you might want to also, mention them as well. So if we say at Justin, that way we'll make sure he gets a notification about this. And we can end up with like this list of changes that we'd like. So there's basically a to-do list for this image. Now where that becomes really helpful is if you do have images demonstrating concepts that you're teaching, you can have a team member review them and kind of go through and say, this is where I wasn't clear. This bit kind of didn't make sense to me. This bit could do with being shown a bit clearer, whatever it is. And then have either you or someone else go through and kind of complete those changes, then upload a new version. So it's called image proofing. It does depend how much you're using images in your course. If it's mostly video, maybe it's only video thumbnails that you'd be doing this for, but that could still be useful. So just good to be aware that it exists. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to jump into questions. So if you haven't already, open up that Q&A tab, ask any questions you have. The team has already been on them, so a lot of them are answered, but I'll go through any that need to be answered live as well. So someone asked to see the media creation statuses. So the ones that I kind of picked out, just these, to do, drafted, script ready, recorded, edited, uploaded, and ready to go. I would actually change that and add an extra one, which is like changes needed. So if we kind of have this, I guess it's only if you have an approval process. So I might also add like approved. Okay, and what I like to do is approved goes before uploaded, and then changes needed can go back at the start. So basically, if we put it back in changes needed, then it's probably only editing. If you have to change the recording or scripting, then it's almost like you're creating a new video. So that's mostly if you're kind of doing an approval process around the editing step. But that's what I would suggest. Okay, why doesn't the result column give the sum of the resulting values in it? Okay, so you're talking about this one. So what you can do in say like this number column is calculate the sum, or the something else, and that will appear down the bottom. What you're saying is that it doesn't work for this column here. That's because this is a formula column. It's just a feature that hasn't been added yet. It'll be added when they get time. The development team's kind of doing a million things all the time. Okay, Kent asked, I'm appreciating the ways that ClickUp makes course creation better. Awesome. I create a new course each month, one indispensable, fantastic. Is there a book or resource you'd recommend as a true checklist of everything you need to create a course, especially that includes more on the advertising front? I haven't actually read a whole ton myself on creating a course. I'm really certain such a resource is out there. I just don't really know of it, sorry. It's not probably quite what you want, but advertising ones are often a bit separate. There is a great book on advertising called 1,000 True Fans. Depending on what your course type is about, I maybe would recommend that. It's I don't know if it's a book, it's like a short essay, but really, really quality. Okay, it looks like we're through all the questions for now. We'll stay on for a few more minutes, chuck anything in if you would like answers to anything else. Otherwise, we might be wrapping up a little bit early today. Cool. Also, if you do you have any wider questions about ClickUp or what I do, particularly what I do, this is my website here. If you would like to get to contact regarding workflow and structure design, particularly training, and then also support and automation, just to chuck that out there. Cool. If there's no questions, then thank you very much for attending today. It was good to chat to you. I hope this was helpful. This is a fairly simplistic view of course creation, which I think in many cases is correct. Avoid having too much hierarchy, too much stuff spread out all over the place if you don't need it. The only times I would start to expand this is if you say have multiple courses. So you might have a list for each course, or if you're getting so many tasks in one list that it's starting to bog down a bit. I try and keep lists under 50 tasks. That's totally not necessary, but it just does help make things go real quick. So if you do have a really, really big course where it might be like a year curriculum or something, and you want to move that up to a folder and start breaking it down into different parts where each part is a list, that's quite reasonable as well. Cool. A couple of questions came in there, but I think the support team are onto them. So someone had a question about mind map and just organizing this alphabetically. You can reorder them in terms of dragging them around. To the best of my knowledge, there's not a button to automatically do it alphabetically. The relayout button up here is what will kind of space them out so there's a reasonably even space between each one. But you can just drag them around if you want to reorder them. Cool. So Adam, you asked, sorry, Paul, you asked, can you detach a node and move it to another leg of the mind map? That's actually a really good question. I do remember that being possible, yeah, when we were designing it. So yes, you can. Just drag it over the parent node and it will become a leg, as you say, of that node. Importing mind maps from other tools. Yes and no. So I don't believe there's any direct one, but what you can do is just import the nodes as tasks, and then we can just display a mind map of tasks. And that will show all the existing tasks. You can see it's got a different structure here because there's no space folder list structure. These are just all tasks. Awesome. Okay. All right. We might wrap it up there. Thank you very much for attending. It's good to be here with all of you, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.